So, hey guys, today we're doing a meta recap. So, we're going over the September meta of Master Duel. And here is what we have, basically. So, we have. Oh, let me fix that real quick. We have Maliss. Nothing to really say about Maliss. It's just really annoying whenever you go second into Maliss because it's really hand trap resistant, but it's just not even that great of a deck if it goes second. That's basically like every Yu-Gi-Oh deck though ever, except for like Tier Limit, which can play on your turn. For whatever reason, it's like kind of mid. Honestly, if we actually compare to Yubel, it's not that much different from Yubel. It's just a little bit better in terms of like how well it can play through certain hand traps, I guess. That might as well be it. And then we have Ryzeal, which this in terms of last month, I feel like that this deck is more of a problem than Malice, but like in a completely different way, I guess. Kind of. So first off, very hand trap resistant as well. Ryzeal, you would need targeted hand traps to do anything. But yeah, that aside, the deck just hand loops you. Yeah, not that much else to say, but it can hand loop you. It can floodgate you with Baguska. It just does all manners of kind of unfair things. And also, there's Ryzeal Cross, where if you don't hard open backer removal, it's pretty hard to do anything about this field. So yeah, also recycling. If you thought dealing with it once was bad enough, you'll have to deal with it again because everything will kind of get recycled, and then everything searches everything. So opponent also always has access to pretty much everything. And also, just like Malice, it's hand trap resistant in about the same ways. Like the one card combo honestly just sucks for both of these decks because they die to one generic interruption. Like normal summon Dormouse, you get imperm, you're done. Special summon X Ryzeal, you get imperm, you're also done, right? But when we throw in a second piece of engine, so we go, for example, X Ryzeal plus Ice Ryzeal or Ice Ryzeal plus Sword Ryzeal, all of a sudden now, if we 2v2 these guys, so that would be like 2 imperms, it no longer stops the combo. Whereas if it was 1v1, where it's 1 imperm versus 1 starter, you would stop their combo, which is phenomenally annoying. But at the same time, if you actually have an end board with like 8-9 interactions, or even 5, there's a really high chance that neither of these decks can play through your end board, because you also have hand traps, pushing you closer to perhaps like 6 or 7 interactions, which for the most part, these decks, they have like nothing in the main deck. They're pretty much just exclusively extra deck kind of decks because their main monsters, their main deck monsters do like nothing, essentially. But yeah, so basically we have kind of a meta combo deck here, and then we have the degenerate combo deck here, which for some reason can hand loop you, floodgate you, and it's just all around annoying, basically. So that's these two decks in a nutshell. And then the other list being played, we have Mermail, Law of Mermail being played, and very simply, but like Mermail, this is just hand loop the deck. So you could argue to an extent it's just going to be a worse version of Ryzeal, honestly. Like that's a thing, I guess. And let's see. With Atlantean, you summon this guy. Let's see. I think his name was Waterlord or something. Yeah. Moling Latia, the Elemental Lord. You summon this. Oh, your opponent gets hand rip for 2. And you have some other way to hand rip, I'm pretty sure. I'm not sure if I really care anymore, but yup. Hand rip the deck, and then we have this. And if I recall correctly, You can also play this, which is at 3. This is an Aqua monster, so I don't know if this is searchable necessarily, but since this is a water deck, you can just normal summon this, and you have some ways to just special summon some water guys, and your deck is essentially all water, so yeah. Like Gate the deck part 2. And then, yeah, worth mentioning, I don't think this is being played as much as Mermail, but still being played, so might as well mention it. You know, we have Shark. And, you know, Shark can also normal summon a barrier statue, so a lot of these decks right now, at the moment, just feel like, damn, should have simply won the coin flip because your opponent's running like all stupid engine like barrier statue of the torrent, which is completely useless going second. Well, not like completely useless. I mean, it has some niche uses. Like for example, let's say you're playing against Maliss. They have, we'll assume it's probably something like Apollosa, Allied Code Talker, and then GWC. If they didn't GWC early, they won't have access to I believe it's MTP07 to banish the barrier statue, and they just get locked out of certain interruptions and stuff off of normal summon barrier statue, which is something, I guess. But also, it doesn't really do much against like Detonator and Plasma Hole being popped, or just completely ignored straight up is possible. So yeah. And then for our final deck, we just have Regenesis. And specifically, it's just stun Regenesis, you know. We're running Skill Drain. There can be only one. Just, yeah. But literally just Floodgates. Not much else to say, except you're getting floodgated by whatever this stinky pile is. Sure is Regenesis stun, I guess. I would argue it's not Regenesis fun, but yeah. This was pretty much the meta for September, I guess. So we're looking at any going second decks. Well, actually, there was Gemini, I guess. This was being played now as well. So if you're dealing with this, I'd say it's not very interesting in terms of a deck. It's just, for the most part, with the Gemini deck, you're just trying to open some fusion, some starter cards or whatever, and then you just board break your opponent, and then you just summon what's his face. Let's see. Not that. Do I have it? Oh, Gemini Master Diamond Dispersion. You summon this guy. You summon a bunch of like Gemini guys, and then you just attack your opponent for game, essentially. There's also an Omni Negate here with Holocore. And I guess a lot of your cards just do things, just in general. Like, with the new support, you have, let's see, Neprim. Neprim, if this card is normal or special summon, adds a Gemini card from your deck to your hand. So just any Gemini card, which can get you into Brilliant Fusion via going into, let's see, where is it? I believe it was like Gemini Quartz, I think. If I could find anything here. Oh, down here. Gemini Quartz. If your opponent controls a monster, you can discard this, set a fusion continuous spell. It has a Gemini lock on it. It doesn't really mean too much. And then you can just drop like Brilliant Fusion, and obviously you have combo because you and like Foolish Burial 3 guys essentially for Master Diamond Dispersion. And you have Omni Negate with Hollow Core. Does this negate activation or effect? Let's see. Negate effect. So this doesn't work in damage step. That's something. Wait. No, wait. Doesn't this work in damage step because it has an attack modifier? Is this why they gave it a... Oh my god. That's so dumb. Wow. I can't believe this. But this doesn't stop continuous cards like Floodgates, though. So if I were to flip Skill Drain and you have Hollow Core, you just gain 1,000 attack. I guess. So that's awkward. So yeah, we have essentially just one going second deck, and then we have Stun, and then all these going first decks, where they're either going to be hand ripping you, they're going to be floodgating you, or it's just kind of Maliss. So if we look at the decks being played, honestly, Maliss seems like the least annoying to play against, except they just drop. Let's see, it was like, it depends on the exact build, but they're going to drop at least like one Omni Negate Apollosa, and then they have like guys that will be special summoned from the graveyard, banish, whatever. So basically, out of completely nowhere. So all of that will be annoying because they'll have more interruptions than you do have hand cards. But yeah, this is legitimately not the only deck that's capable of doing this. So yeah, Super Heavy Samurai. Might I remind you that this still exists, it's just not being played right now. In fact, arguably, that this would drop even more Omni Negates, and you can also technically search back row Omnis to prevent stuff like potentially Forbidden Droplet, Dark Ruler No More from taking out your board if you actually cared. So yeah, there's a bunch of decks that kind of do something similar-ish to Maliss, so yeah, this feels more like a standard deck. Well, with the exception of, I guess, Gemini for the most part, all these going first decks are just degenerate strategies where you're floodgating, hand ripping, but not quite FTKing at least. There are no FTKs this month. Not, well, yeah, none that I've gone hit by here, at least, in terms of it being kind of a meta deck, so that's something. Now that I think about it, pretty sure Snake Eye can still FTK you. Just gonna throw that out there real quick. I don't think they hit any of the cards in that package. So, yeah, you can just be FTK'd. Cool. But I mean, being FTK'd, being like stunned out, kind of irritating. I guess the most irritating thing about Maliss, if you were actually legitimately trying to go second against them, aside from the hand trap thing, I guess if I would put something at rank 2, it would be the fact that they draw 3 cards. And that draw 3 is like very insulated and something they can do relatively consistently. And in fact, it's not draw 3, it's draw 4, because you can banish technically the white binder on the second turn as well. So it's not draw 3, it's draw 4, which is basically a new hand. So your opponent basically gets to play against you with 2 hands if they go first, but if they go second, it's like a pretty normal deck, if not worse than a normal deck potentially. Like, I would argue Tearlament would be a little bit better just naturally in terms of going second with their card effects triggering on destruction, whereas like Maliss monsters, their effects don't really trigger. And there's no like insane benefit to destruction because they're like choke points for destruction. There are none for Tearlament. It just triggers tier cards basically, which is not really useful for you. So yeah, overall I'd rate this meta like a solid 5 or 4 out of 10 maybe. It's like pretty normal, kinda. With the exception of maybe Regenesis, because this is honestly the least fun deck to play against. Well, is it? No, actually it's pretty close, I guess, with the Mermail stuff. But both of these decks are pretty annoying to play against, honestly. Because, you know, this is basically a stun deck. But, yeah, it's not as consistent as stun, so arguably this could be a worse deck than stun. But this is just a hand rip deck. So if you go first against these, you basically just win. It's just, well, I could drop this down to a 4 out of 10, honestly. Because, you know, this meta is mostly like, you go first, you win the game because you got to go first. Like, assuming you're playing one of these decks, that holds true. If you're playing a different deck that's not listed here, that also will probably hold true. And yeah, if you're playing Gemini, I guess you go in second, but that doesn't mean necessarily you win if you go second either. So these are all just kind of annoying all around. I might even drop this another point and go to like 3 out of 10, honestly. But it's not as bad as, for example, like Runic Stun meta, where there was nothing but Runic Stun. And then more Runic Stun. Ugh. Man. When was the last time we had a good meta? If I look through it, I'm not sure I'll find anything. But yeah, that's all I got for you guys today. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.